Hello and welcome to this podcast. What I'm going to do today is talk about some of the features in the Microsoft Word equation editor. The version of the equation editor I'm going to talk about today is the version that's installed in Office's versions 2007, 2010 and 2013. There is an equation editor in earlier versions, but it works in a different way to the one that is described here. So the first equation I'm going to put in is the one that you actually see here, where it says gradient equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So first things first, I'm going to open up the Microsoft Office, show you where to find it. If you click on Insert and then Equation, that opens up the equation editor and you've actually got a little box where you can type your equation. So looking along the top here, we've got various functions which we can actually use. The ones that you're most likely to use are going to be the three on the left hand side here, where we've got fraction, where the simple one that you see here is the one you're going to be using most often. Script, where you can put in various subscripts, superscripts, and you'll be using all of these here. And also to insert radicals like square roots or cube roots and so on. So to start off with, we're actually going to just put in gradient equals y2 minus y1 over x2 over, minus x1. So the various ways of doing this, the first way I'm going to show you is using the features of the ribbon at the top. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to type the word gradient, and what you noticed, I've actually put this into inverted commas. And the reason for this is, if you actually look at how gradient is written, it's written in italics. And what the inverted commas are doing is telling the equation editor to actually convert this into plain text. So as soon as I press equals, you see that gets converted into ordinary text. So now we actually want y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So click on fraction. This gives us everything as a fraction, but we actually want a subscript in the first term at the top. So for now, click on script. You can actually see here we've got two little boxes, and I can type y in the first box, 2 in the second box, and then just press the right arrow key to advance the cursor to the right. And you see that it's actually become full size again as well. Now type minus, and again we need to actually put in a script. So same one again. So now I'm just going to put in y and 1. Oh, sorry, I missed the box there. So make sure I actually click the cursor into the box and type 1. And you see that's given us y2 minus y1. And it's the same thing for the bottom. Click on script. And I can now put in x and 2. Right arrow advances the cursor. And then it's going to be minus. And again, click on script, and then we're going to put in x1. And that's given us the equation that I talked about. So a more straightforward and faster way of doing this. And you can access the equation editor using a shortcut command from the keyboard. And the way to do that is if you press the Alt and plus equals key together, you can see that the equation editor has now opened up. So now I can actually type in the equation. I'm now going to type in the same equation again, but I'm going to do it without using any of the features in the ribbon. So again, I'm going to put the word gradient into inverted commas so that it gets converted into plain text. I'm going to go press equals. And now what I'm going to do is enclose everything in the numerator and denominator in brackets. So I'm going to open a bracket here. So all the terms in the numerator are going to be put into a bracket. So I just type y as I did before. But now there's a shortcut command which you can actually use to put in subscripts, and that is the underscore key, which we find between the 0 and plus equals symbols on the top right hand side of your keyboard. So I press shift, the underscore, and that shows me the symbol there. And that's telling it I want to put in a subscript. Now I'm going to press the number 2. So that says y underscore 2. And as soon as I press the space bar, you can see that's converted into y subscript 2. So as soon as you finish the subscript command, you must press the space bar to render it correctly as seen here. Now I'm going to press minus y, same thing again, underscore 1, and then close the bracket. And now we need to put in the denominator, so you can just use the slash key for division. Open brackets again, x underscore 2 minus x underscore 1, and close bracket, and you can see it looks like this. But now as soon as I press the enter key, watch what happens. You can see that the brackets have been removed and the equation's been rendered in exactly the same way as before. So we've now got y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So if I go back to the sheet here, I've now got a second equation which I'm going to show you how to enter. The second equation is using the square roots. We've got v equals 2e subscript k over m. So if now go back to the equation editor and open up the equation editor. Again, first time I'm going to show you how to enter it using the ribbon. So open up equation editor, click on equation. We've now got the space where we can actually type the equation. So the first thing I'm going to put in is v, and v was equal to the square root. So we open up the square root symbol. But if you remember, I actually had something on the top and something on the bottom. So we actually click on the fraction symbol. You notice the square root is now covering everything here. So we've actually enlarged the square root symbol. So we actually wanted 2e to the k, subscript k. So if we actually click on script inside the box, we've got the two boxes here. So anything I type in the left-hand box is going to appear in normal script. Everything in the smaller box is going to be the subscript. So I'm going to put 2e and then subscript k. So that goes into the little box here. So just make sure you click inside the little box and it's highlighted. So we got 2e subscript k. And then on the bottom we just have m. So that's that equation inserted there. So the next one we're going to look at is the same thing again, but just by using the keyboard to actually enter everything. So in order to do this, what I'm going to do is press Alt plus equals to enter the equation editor, then got v equals, now going to actually open up the square root symbol. And we can actually do this by pressing the / symbol on your keyboard, which is in the bottom left hand side next to the shift key, and type in sqrt for square root, and then press space, and you can see the square root symbol's been inserted. What I'm now going to do is put everything into brackets, and what we want is everything that follows to be enclosed in the square root symbol. So what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to open up two brackets. The first bracket is saying everything that follows is going to be enclosed in the square root symbol. The second bracket is going to be for our numerator, which I'm then going to close and then type in the value in the denominator. So what I'm going to do now is type in the function. So it's basically 2, sorry I made a mistake there, 2e, then subscript k. So the subscript, if you remember, is the underscore symbol, and then k. Going to close the first bracket because that is our numerator, and then because there's just one thing in the denominator, I don't need to actually put a bracket here. If you actually have more than one thing separated by a space, you will need the bracket. And now we're going to close the overall bracket, and it gets rendered like that. But as soon as I press enter, you can actually see it gets put in the same way as the example above. So what I'm going to do is just end this first short podcast here. We're then going to continue in a second podcast. We're going to tell you a little bit more about some of the features of the Word equation editor and how to actually insert your own commands and how to actually find out what the commands are. So that's the basic introduction to the equation editor, and do watch the second podcast as well to find out more about how to insert commands like the square root and how to find the list of the commands in the equation editor. Thank you for listening.